This is the Almost Timely newsletter for the week of November 19th, 2023. Content authenticity statement: 100% of this newsletter's content was generated by me, the human. When I use AI, I'll disclose it prominently. There's a link in the newsletter to learn about why this sort of statement is important. It matters particularly around things like copyright. So, what's on my mind this week? A deep dive on prompt libraries. At least for the first portion of this newsletter, I'm going to studiously ignore the topical news of the week about the kerfuffle at OpenAI itself until we have some more facts. More on that later in the regular news. In the meantime, let's talk about your prompt library. One of the things I have advocated for in every talk and workshop I've ever given on generative AI is the importance of a prompt library, of building a prompt library. It's more important than ever for you to have one. So let's dig into how to set one up. First, what is a prompt library? It's pretty much what it sounds like: a library of prompts you use with generative AI tools to get you the results that you want. Prompt libraries are universal in that you set one up for all the different generative AI tools available. Text models, image models, video models, etc. Like a real library, they help you catalog what you have and make it easy for you to find what you're looking for. Why do you need a prompt library? Two reasons. Well, actually three reasons, but we'll start with two. First, you need a prompt library so that you have a record of your successes, a repository of things that work. This dramatically improves repeatability and reproducibility. The first time you do a task with generative AI, you write your prompt, write it down in the library, and then every time after you have to do the same task, getting started should be as easy as copying and pasting something from your prompt library. You might need to, tweak or adjust a prompt over time, but you've got most of what you need in a system. Now, second, you need a prompt library so you can share your successes with others when and where appropriate. If you work at a company with more than just yourself, as an employee or contractor, a prompt library lets you share your encoded knowledge and capabilities with other people on your team. It helps them get started faster, and if they make improvements on your prompts, you get access to those improvements, so your work gets better too. If this is starting to sound suspiciously like source code control and code management, it is, right? Prompts are software that you code. Every time you use a generative AI tool, you are coding. You may not have gone to school to be a developer. You may not have set out to be a developer, but you are now. It's just you're coding in human language rather than computer language, in English or French or Danish instead of Python or C++ or Java. That means the same things, the same practices that have made computer programming languages successful, like repositories of code and source code control and version control, are also going to make prompt engineering libraries successful too. That also means you should protect your prompt library with the same vigor that you protect the source code of code written by developers, in the same way that you wouldn't just willy-nilly give away access to your proprietary code from your C# or your Java software repositories at your company. Neither should you just give away your prompts. Those prompts are pieces of code that you run with a computer, get a result, and are thus valuable intellectual property. In fact, depending on your employer, you might not even be allowed to give away your prompts. So you put together that great top 50 ChatGPT prompts. If you did those for work, A, they may be owned by your employer, and B, you're probably not allowed to give them away. All right, the third reason you need a prompt library for more advanced users: it is the basis for your own apps, for building your own apps based on your prompts. We'll talk more about that in a bit. So, what should belong in a prompt library? Think about what goes into a regular software library, like a repository or version control system, like Git, for example. The software itself, right, the code, who wrote it, when they wrote it, what language or platform or tool it runs in, what it's for or why it exists at all, who should or should not have access to it. Right? Those are all the things that are in any good source code control software. In a similar vein, our prompt library should have similar metadata. The prompt itself. Ideally, a sample outcome of the prompt. Right? So, hey, this is the prompt, this is the result. Who wrote it, right? When they wrote it, and obviously if there's been changes or updates, you want to log that too. which model it's for, right? Bing, Bard, ChatGPT, Claude 2, Stable Diffusion, Midjourney. You want to detail which platform it's for, because even though the prompt library is universal, prompts themselves are not universal. What works in DALL-E 3 with ChatGPT will not work on Bing Image Creator, not, or at least not to nearly the same level. What works on Stable Diffusion doesn't work on Midjourney, and so on and so forth. So you want to make sure you have what model is in there. What category of task the prompt is for. Image generation, summarization, rewriting, video, etc. And the name of the prompt, right? And best practice, name the prompt with some of these features so that it's easy to find. If you have all this data in your prompt library, you will maximize its power because people will be able to find what they want when they want it, and that includes you. It will dramatically speed up your work with generative AI. Let's look at an example of how we put it in the library. I wrote a prompt that takes a sensational news story and reduces it to a boring news story. It says, you are an intelligence officer specializing in news analysis. You know open source intelligence, news feeds, summarization, topic modeling, semantics, linguistics, key concepts, extraction, transcripts, transcription, diarization, interviews, discussions, podcasts. Your first task is to summarize the following news article. Summarize it in the following ways. Remove any and all opinion and speculation. Summarize only facts. Remove any hyperbolic, highly emotional, and inflammatory language. Remove any partisan or heavily skewed perspectives. Remove clickbait, exaggeration, and sensational language. Remove misleading or deceptive information. Remove promotional, commercial, and sales language. Rewrite in a neutral point of view and a neutral tone of voice. Now, this prompt is a great prompt for taking all the absurdity out of clickbait news stories and boiling them down to facts, right? If you've ever gone on the news site of your choice, there's all these inflammatory, sensational stories, and this prompt just reduces that down to, hey, this happened. And now, that's the prompt. So what would accompany it in the prompt library? Obviously the prompt, a sample of the output that I've reviewed and approved, right? I would have maybe the input news story, and I have the output of the prompt. My name, the day I wrote it, what model it's for. So I wrote this for GPT 3.5 Turbo or GPT 4 Turbo, although it would also work on Claude 2. It would not work nearly as well on Bard or Bing for mostly context window reasons. And the purpose of the prompt, summarizing news stories down to their facts. And access levels, this prompt I would give away, right? It is not core to the business of Trust Insights, my company. It is not proprietary. But I might have prompts in my prompt library that would be like customers only, or a specific customer, or internal for the company only. Or even prompts like, hey, this is mine personally and I'm not going to share it. Right? Whatever you want the access levels to be, that's what you put in the prompt. Now, how do you catalog and store these prompts? With these fields in mind that we've talked about, store them in any appropriate storage mechanism that accommodates this kind of metadata and that you'll use, right? That can be a notebook like Evernote or OneNote or Joplin. I use Joplin. It's a free open source app. It can be a document management system like OneDrive, Google Drive, etc., or SharePoint. It could be a database like Airtable or Base or MySQL or whatever works best for you that causes you the least amount of work to store the relevant data in a format that is searchable. The one thing I would not I would caution you to not do, is don't just leave your prompts in the history mechanism of your language model interface of choice, right? Don't leave it in Claude's history or ChatGPT's history, because all it takes is one accidental clear history click, and you could lose your entire prompt library, and there's no way to recover it. There is no way to get it back. So here's the advanced part where your prompt library levels you up even more. Last week, you heard about custom GPTs and fine-tuned models, how you can build apps today, right now, inside ChatGPT's environment or in their assistant API. Guess where all your app ideas for custom GPTs and language model-based apps are going to come from? Yeah, your prompt library. If you've been diligent about storing your prompts, you have a literal library of apps you could build in, right? Now, not every prompt you've ever done needs to become an app, but if you have a prompt library of the prompts you use the most, it is trivial to turn that prompt into an app like a custom GPT. And because you've already used the prompts, you know their value, and you can prioritize which prompts should become apps based on the ones that use the most or save you the most time. A prompt library is your secret starter kit for building those custom AI-based tools, software, apps, things that you could give away, things you could sell. That's the cookbook for your secret sauce, right? A prompt library is the cookbook for your secret sauce of apps that you're going to build. So build a prompt library as soon as possible and share it with the appropriate parties as quickly as you can. The sooner you've got your cookbook of prompts that work great, the sooner you'll be able to amplify and scale your productivity with generative AI. All right, let's check what else happened this past week. One of the big questions people had was why I moved my newsletter to Substack. So check out that piece. I go through all the reasons why I moved to Substack, and so far so good. Y'all are reading the newsletter. Appreciate you doing that. People are using the referral mechanism. There should be a referral little widget and stuff. So if you want to refer people, there are prizes for certain numbers of referrals. So you can check that as well. Other things that happened this week, this week's episode of In-Ear Insights was talking more about software development and custom GPTs, so go check that out. I sent out an ad this week on the upcoming generative AI course. It's going to release on December 13th. It is like 4.5 hours of content in like 15-minute chunks, so you don't have to do it all at once. There's a discount code in the newsletter. Early Bird 300 will save you $300 on the course. You can click on the link in the newsletter, or you can go to trustinsights.ai/AI course. All right, what do we got for jobs this week? Business Intelligence Manager at Tracken, Content Writer at Salesforce, Data Analytics Platform Engineer at Salesforce, Digital Strategy and Marketing Manager at Safari Limited, Sales Manager of Ad Tech at Appier, Senior Account Executive at Larson Communications, Senior Director of Product Marketing at Venafi, Social Media Manager at Bellway, Senior Manager of Product Analytics at NBC Universal, Senior Marketing Manager at Mediavine, and VP of Data and AI at AirUp GmbH, which is a German company. So lots of people hiring in this week's Trust Insights newsletter, which there's a link in in case you missed it section. And we did look at the market right now for hiring and marketing, and the market hit a stumble in October. It was starting to look good, and then not so much. And a lot of folks that I know are looking for work right now. For whatever reason, companies started doing like lots of layoffs just before the Thanksgiving holiday here in the USA, which is kind of a sucky thing to do. So the market for job seekers is a little bit impaired right now. So these listings, if they look good, go and apply for them. All right, what else happened in the news this week? IBM, Apple, and a bunch of other companies all cut their ad spend on X because their ads are appearing next to Nazi posts. I feel like the bar for social media networks should be pretty low. Like, just don't allow Nazi content. At least not in the same place you're trying to get paying advertisers. If that's your thing, that's your thing. But then don't wonder why people don't want to spend money on your ads. We also have why companies should care about employees' LinkedIn connections from Harvard Business School, long-form content tips. Advertisers are looking for other social networks to advertise on. We have a piece on Core Web Vitals. And then the news that has taken the tech internet by storm on Friday, this past Friday, OpenAI's board very, very quickly fired Sam Altman, one of the co-founders, and along with Greg Brockman, who's another co-founder, just also quit. The reason I'm not talking more about this, at least in the newsletter, is right now there's not a lot of facts. There's one perspective. There's the perspective of Sam and Greg and what they've posted on X. There is a public blog post from OpenAI, and that's it. Now, there's a lot of people talking. There's a whole lot of people talking. But it's mostly speculation. And, well, again, without facts, it's hard to know what is and is not the case. And, of course, as usual, there's like the thousands of LinkedIn gurus who are all talking about what this means for you. We don't know. What we do know is that the interim CEO, Mira Murati, is is someone who has a lot of experience on the technical side of OpenAI. She has been the project lead and product lead for ChatGPT for quite some time. And I think, honestly, I would say I think the company's probably in better hands with her. She, in the interviews I've watched of her, is exceptionally competent, a good engineer, someone who is proficient at doing the thing. And for a very complex product like the OpenAI ecosystem, having that kind of engineer at the helm is a good thing. So also, tech companies need more female leaders, so there's also that. But first and foremost, she's a good engineer. YouTube rolled out its AI music makers to take on TikTok, which that's going to be real interesting. Some pieces on quantization of models. And there's another article, two articles this week which are really interesting. One on why some actors are opposing the SAG-AFTRA deal, particularly around AI. And I have a lot of thoughts on that, but I think I'm going to make that into a separate video post because I think that warrants more time than I want to spend right now on it. But I think that there's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of potential loopholes, and there's not a clear-cut, yes, this is the answer that was going to make everyone happy, because there is no answer that's going to make everyone happy. There's going to be a series of compromises where everyone will be mostly unhappy, but some people will be slightly less unhappy than others. There's another interesting academic paper this week on unaligned models, a model unalignment, and how easy it is within 100 prompts or less to get big public models like the ones that power ChatGPT to go against their alignment. Alignment is basically fancy for moral compass. These models are given a basic set of tenets: be helpful, harmless, and truthful. And it turns out it's really easy for people to get them to not do that. And again, this is one that probably needs to be its own piece, because I could spend a lot of time on it. But the reality is this: models that are trained on humanity, right, on the combined text of the human experience, are going to have alignment issues. Not every human being is a good human being. Most human beings are not good human beings 100% of the time. And that text that is out there on the internet reflects us. And because of that, we struggle with our own alignments. Right? We struggle with our own ethics and morals. So of course, our language models are going to do the same. Upcoming shows, we've got Social Media Marketing World in February, the Australian Food and Grocery Council in May, and MAYCON in Cleveland in September. Plus, there's like 5 other shows that are in final negotiations right now. So if there's an event you would like me to do, and actually I just got back from doing a mini workshop at a med tech company, and then the week before doing a full workshop for a trade association. The workshops are a lot of fun, and if I had to tell you which one to pick, yeah, the workshops are more expensive, but your attendees will get a lot of benefit because they get a lot of hands-on time. So if there's an event that you have coming up, like an annual meeting, and you want me to come in and do an AI workshop, let me know. There's links in the newsletter. All right, that was a lot. There's a lot going on right now in the AI space, in the marketing space. But I wanted to really focus this week on those prompt libraries because that's practical stuff that will help you today. And no matter what's going on and all the chaos that's happening right now, building out that prompt library is a practical, tactical thing you can do today that will pay multiple dividends over time. Thanks for tuning in. Please share this newsletter, share this video with folks that you think need to see it and hear it. It's no registration required. I appreciate you being here. I'll talk to you next time. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And if you want to know when new videos are available, hit the bell button to be notified as soon as new content is live.